Hello, welcome, welcome. So lovely to see your faces. I now have an expectation that I'm going to see these faces that I love. So that's in terms of expectations, I think that's a good one. I was considering today that the practice that we're doing, one of the things it can do is to generate a little presence bubble around you, and a presence bubble that you're in the middle of, but that you fill out what I call your muchness. And you can come into any interaction letting your presence expand all the way out so that you are, both a lighthouse, but you've created a moving nest for yourself, that you take your presence with you, and that your presence is it's both an invitation, but it's also a way of being with yourself that you can use no matter what else is going on around you. And I was thinking about, how do we generate that? And for me, the practice of appreciation is one. When we combine appreciation with our attention, with the flow of our attention, it gives you it's friendly armor, and it's permeable friendly armor, that if you're filling this space with appreciation, you that kind of precedes you. You know how people, we just had the Oscars where people went down the red carpet. And so it creates a kind of a carpet for you, that and a ground to stand on. And I think that mostly people undervalue the power of appreciation. And I think of appreciation as, first of all, being sensitively aware of. And so I'd like to invite you to let your attention come into you, what's going on inside, giving your attention to you. And I'd like you to add in what we would call appreciation, but it's really letting yourself be sensitively aware of. Like if you have a pet, uh, especially one that you've had for a while, you can tell immediately what's going on with them. So because you're giving your sensitive awareness. And so mostly, I think, out in public, we protect our attention. We either don't give it at all, or we give it in a way that is narrow and vigilant. But I really want to invite you to generate appreciation as not as a practice, but also as a precursor to, like, when you're going out into public, that you get yourself fluffed up with attention and appreciation. And then I find, when I go into situations where I'm leading with appreciation, that the whole quality of the interaction changes. And that even if I never say anything to anybody, that if I'm moving around in that state of appreciation, I'm actually sort of Johnny Appleseeding appreciation everywhere. And people might go, oh, they may not be able to give any words to it, but like, oh, something relaxes or opens up, or I feel more spacious. And so I want to invite you to let yourself do a little body scan with a kind of, oh, how are you? Oh, how are you? And also being with. So I think of appreciation as just fundamentally being with, but with a sense of, I'm willing to be with this. So I think most of our attention now is, I'm not willing to be with this. I'm just in lots of different ways, and sort of, kind of all this armoring that we do. But I find that appreciation it's like going from heavy metal music to uh to humming, and the Schumann resonance that, that people can feel, but they don't quite know what's going on with it. So I find it very subversive in a very positive way. So when you give attention to yourself, I'd like you to let your body respond. Because the other thing I notice that's happening to so many people is that they're not moving. So there's a sense of, because fear, the fear blocking, contracting, getting really stiff, freezing, fleeing. So when you give attention to yourself, I'd like to do sort of a gentle, sort of oozy wiggle. When I notice a place, I kind of, so just notice how when you're giving attention to yourself, how does your body want to respond? And I'm noticing I'm doing that with my eyes closed, and I imagine that you might also, and of course, I'm not doing that while I'm driving, but if I'm playing with appreciating me, like, just how is it going today with you? And then I'm letting that attention be, when I look out, what I'm really, I'm not looking for anything. I'm looking to be with. And so I'm taking my attention out. And when I do that, my attention feels more swirly. It feels softer to me. And when I receive that kind of attention, I feel touched by it in a way that adds to my aliveness. And so I think that one of the gifts that we can give to ourselves and to others right now is to combine attention with appreciation. So it's not, appreciation is not rah rah and just jump over everything and that's going on. It's really going into what's going on with a kind of gentle attention that is spacious. What I find when I'm appreciating is that I move out of time into that kind of spacious openness in which all kinds of things can happen. So let yourself, I think it's best to favor you, give lots of attention to you and then give some attention out. And then lots of attention to you and then give some attention out. And I find also when I do that, that what I'm tending to notice is beauty, color, open space, but I also will notice what's emerging in other people. So, I can move through a space and I go, oh, that, I can see, that guy's really sad. And, I'm just giving attention, letting myself be with that, and then coming back to me. And I've found over and over again, I can see that something opens up for that other person. And they may not even know what it is or that I've had anything to do with it. But it's a kind of, it's my, fun little Johnny Appleseed thing that I do when I'm moving around in the world. It's like, how much joy and openness and space can I co-create with others? Excuse me. That, the cold that I had a couple of weeks ago, there's just a tiny little tickle in there that still keeps coming. So it's going to give my loving attention to that for a moment, rather than yelling at it, rather than judging myself for not being through it. So the combining of different intentions with our attention is an incredibly powerful practice that I think you're going to really enjoy, weaving and letting your attention circulate. So the first thing is, when you're stuck, notice where your attention is stuck. So for a long time after the election, my attention was stuck out. It was like, whoa. And so really favoring bringing my attention to me, and then getting the attention circulating, it's just going to move things through so that you can make one choice at a time. Because the tendency, part of what's going on right now is the intention to overwhelm, the intention to overwhelm our nervous systems. And you have much more choice in that than you might imagine. And the first choice is where you're putting your attention. And so when you circulate your attention, it's going to give you much more choice. And that I can pretty much guarantee, but there'll be other things that will open up for you as you're letting yourself circulate, but then adding in intention with your attention. And so that I invite you to really let yourself play with. So given all of that that's going on, let's play with how's your here I am today? What is your here I am? So letting your here I am match what you're feeling inside. Here I am. And then your I'm so glad. How is your I'm so glad? Mine is sort of like this today. I'm so glad. So it could be it could be a here I am and I'm so glad. So however it is for you, let yourself play with that, because that's part of, I think, at the heart of what we're doing together is celebrating. Here you are. I'm so glad. Here I am. Here I am. I'm so glad. Because I give each day, I'm grateful for each day. Here I am. Here I am again. No matter what's going on, here I am. And I'm so glad. So it also corrects, I had the experience as a kid of basically here I am was met with what's wrong now. so so the patterns that you learned as a kid, or in society can also be interrupted so that you can be a here I am, I'm so glad as you move around in the world, through the practice of putting putting appreciation together with your intention to circulate your attention. So let's take a look now at our card for today from our integrity deck. And I'd like you to again let your appreciation, your sensitive awareness go out into the card and then back into you, and notice how your body responds to. I just realized, I've looked at this card a whole bunch, and I just saw the bottom right corner where one of our cats is. So the practice of circulating your attention can keep opening up new awarenesses and new perspectives. So as you're letting your attention circulate and land, I'd like you to just notice how that's opening up more flow in you as I read to you the sentence and the question from this. And the card is called Connect. I'm open to connecting fully with my body intelligence and fully with the people in my life. I'm open to connecting fully with my body intelligence and fully with the people in my life. And then the question is, how can I connect fully with my body intelligence and with the people in my life? So as I'm reading that, I'm thinking, well, gosh, that's what we've been doing this morning, because the practice of attending with appreciation deepens your connection, both with you and with others. And I also love the sense of touching and being touched. Both, if you've had your face touched with gentleness by someone, there's a quality of connection there that's really magical. And so that sense of being touched and being willing to be touched by others' attention is really at the basis of connection. I'm willing to be affected by your presence. I'm willing to let that affect me. So let yourself just notice how your body wants to respond to this card. And it also honors, we can come on back to the big group. It also honors the the many, many gifts of body intelligence that when I'm opening to my body intelligence, I get so much more information than I can possibly get with my thinking brain. And so if I let myself simply be willing to connect. So just check out what your willingness to connect is. And also your ability to choose with whom you want to connect. So I had, way back, I have to connect with everybody. If and when I was a therapist, I have to work with everybody who comes, because that's part of my job. And really getting that you get to choose who you let in. So I also find that when I'm circulating my attention, even if I've had an interaction with somebody that I don't really want to have much connection with, if I keep circulating my attention, that just moves on through. It doesn't have to become a thing that I'm holding or that I have to work with or get rid of. It just moves on through. So you're connecting fully also, rather than as just a sort of a flyby high. If you connect fully with your body intelligence, that keeps developing in you and informing you. And it's sort of having a sort of a little angel whispering on your shoulder. And I found that happens to me, like my little angel will say, oh, oh, you want to take this, you want to go and pick up, you left your phone in the other room. So it can be very practical. It's like, whoop, don't go out the door just yet. And or, oh, do we, the cat or the water is still on in the bathroom, because we turn the tub water on just a little bit because the cats like to drink out of the faucet, but then we have to remember to turn it off. And then we have this little joke that we either get or we give up elder points if we don't. You get elder points if you turn the water off, but you get a demerit. You get minus elder points if you don't turn the water off. So we have these little ways of rewarding ourselves. But I have this little angel that says, "Hey," or call your friend. And it's always something that like there's something that's going on. And so my body intelligence is this advisor and a friend that rather than most of us think of when we give attention to our bodies, it's really about what's wrong. And that's how we're taught to give attention to ourselves. So that's one of the big things that we're shifting in our play together, is that we're giving ourselves appreciation. It's sort of like, oh, honey, you're like, oh, that, being with, moving along with in a way that honors whatever's going on. And then as you let your attention shift, you get to incorporate that, or, it turns into whatever it turns into. So now let me take a look at what our Presence Connect play is. So if any of you are new today, welcome. And what we do is a practice I call loops and scoops, where we play with attention and we play with love scoops, because so many people are in a faint today, and love scoops really allow you to engage. I'm here. And I'm willing to be here. And then we play with one of the cards from our integrity deck. And then we play with Presence Connect play, because one of my intentions is that the world have the opportunity to shift from what we call the drama triangle, of the hero, victim, villain, into interactions that are presence. I get here, connect, I see and feel what wants to happen in my connection, and then play. What's the collaboration that wants to happen? And I've been practicing this for many years now, and I can tell you it really works. And so each interaction can be an opportunity to improvise, an opportunity to give and receive little chunks of love, little bits, or however much is wanting to happen in that interaction. And for me, it creates a day that's full of pleasant surprises, rather than same old, same old. So the presence connect play for today. Oh, presence is about wonder and So is a great thing to add to your loop of awareness. So the generates wonder, and it also shifts you out of your critical brain into your wonder brain. The hmm, So just adding that in, or if I'm considering a problem or a project, mostly, I learned to come at it, as a problem, like what needs to be solved here, and let's do the pros and the cons, and let's see what makes sense. But if I and let myself wonder, I get all of these resources of my body intelligence, of the universe supporting me, bringing in so many more perspectives than my logical brain could come up with. Plus, it opens my throat. So, the and even feeling that, letting yourself and feeling that vibration, noticing where it is. My vibration from my has really expanded over the years of practicing. So I can also send my into different areas. So there are all kinds of ways you can play with If I'm feeling particularly challenged in an interaction, I'll actually in an audible way. And sometimes I'll do it inside myself, so it's, not quite so obvious, but I have, and I welcome you to use a In fact, think of something that's troubling you right now, or that you're worried about, or, there's lots to choose from. So just choose one thing and let yourself worry about it for a moment and notice what the experience of that is in your body, and also how that changes the way that you're looking around in the world. Now, let yourself, that is a pleasant through your whole out breath. And I want you to notice that you cannot worry and at the same time. And so it's a pattern interrupt that you may choose to do lots of times if it's a particularly big thing that you're working with. But I find that takes me out of what we call Newtonian world, where there's always friction and things don't quite work, and it takes you really into energetic world, Einsteinian world, and space, where you're in the right place at the right time, and things move easily and solutions occur without your having to think about it. And I've had that happen so many times that I'm very confident that as you continue practicing, you're going to find those kinds of discoveries that create delight and solutions and openings from And of course, there's now lots of research about how valuable is. We've been doing for a couple of decades now. So we have some experience with it, but we didn't have to do the research, which I really love. So connect. Oh, this is another great one to support flow. Connect is to receive communication with an open posture. So let's try the opposite of that for a moment. Like you're in a communication with somebody, and I'd like you to take on your least open posture. And notice when I do that, I stop breathing. I'm not aware of anything going on around me, and I start feeling fearful, and then it's your fault. So immediately there's going to be some projection going on there. So right now, what's something that you can do to open your posture? That, it could be a little choice. So it could be just like shrugging your shoulders or rolling your shoulders so that they settle down. Or it could be letting, instead of a little bit of a collapse, it could be letting your chest open. It could be feeling your hips and noticing your feet connecting with the ground. So some way in which you can open your posture. And I find that with certain people, I have postural patterns, like the pattern I had with my mother, which I really didn't I didn't really grok until after, she had a stroke and couldn't talk to me anymore. And my mother was a master of innuendo, and, so I remember one time she called me, this was way long time ago in the mid-80s where you had to pick up the phone, you didn't know who was on the other end, and I picked up the phone and she said, "Oh, you're home." And there was just such a rich cascade of implication, in that tone that I realized after she had a stroke and couldn't talk anymore, I realized that I had held that as a cringe. Just a like when I would talk to my mother, there'd be a there and I it had completely changed my posture. And then I realized that, oh, oh, I didn't have to kinda, because you can't really cover your ears, it's not socially acceptable to go, "Ah!" So, but I cringed to try and get my shoulders up around my ears, and so having that freedom to expand to receiving was wow, what a difference. And so I imagine that you've got little locked doors there inside that if you just open your posture creates just much more of giving and receiving attention, which is what we're up to in life. That's what happens. Whenever you go to a party, it's not, and people are standing around, they're just giving and receiving attention. That's what's happening. And we need that lifelong. So letting your posture be open, you can just receive so much more of that. And then play is exaggerate. So a key to play is not to stop doing what you're doing, it's to do what you're doing more. Is to So if you have a, like there's a you if you let yourself do your expression more, then it kind of turns into play. And we have a whole process that we've invented called stuck face that you I think we've got it somewhere on the foundation for conscious living board. But the idea of exaggerating is that you're being with what you're doing, and if you exaggerate it, you get more of a sense of it. Either turns into being funny, or you get a sense of what it is that you're reacting to, but it moves you into play rather than going up into your head and trying to figure it out. So exaggerating what you're doing or helping other people to exaggerate what they're doing, tone of voice or, their bodies, leads to play. And especially if you have an agreement that they're willing to play. So, and some people won't be, but then remember, you can choose with whom you want to connect. So, lots of stuff to play with this week, and really appreciate all of you being here. And the main thing I really want you to play with is putting appreciation, your sensitive awareness together with your attention, and especially for you. All right. Mwah. Take care. Until next time.